have Ramzy Baroud. He joins us live from Rome. Ramzy, thanks so much for joining us. You know, the Trump administration has consistently reversed decades-old U.S. policy on Israel, from relocating the embassy to recognizing these settlements as legal. And truth be told, nothing's been done to stop it. So what is the end game for this progression?
First, thank you for having me. I think it's very important that we note that the Trump administration, since its advent to power, has systematically tried to demolish the status quo ante as far as U.S. foreign policy regarding Palestine and Israel is concerned. Just this year, in January of this year, they pulled out of UNESCO on the behest of Israel, and now they are ending this year with this sinister decision to not recognize international law, or rather to recognize the settlements as if they are not a violation of international law. Now, I think it's also important to note that the U.S. has no power over international law. The U.S. is just one out of the 194 countries, I believe, in the United Nations, and no single country has the power to interpret international law in the way it pleases its administration or its government. So this really doesn't change anything as far as international law is concerned. What it does change, however, it empowers the Israeli government, whether that of a future government led by Netanyahu or by Benny Gantz. It empowers them to carry on with threats to annex large parts of the West Bank. Right. And that is the real fear.
I mean, Ramzy, we know you say, of course, this is in violation of international law, and you can say the United States has no actual power to enforce or break international law, but whether we like it or not, it is a powerful country, and this gives Israel's position a boost as Israel continues to occupy this land as it has for decades, and nothing has been done to stop it. So what do you expect Palestinians to do at this point? What few gains and advantages they'd ever made have now all been put into reverse. What can they actually do?
I will address this question. I just want to say it's also important to know that the United States have effectively violated international law regarding settlements for decades anyway. The Jewish settlements in the West Bank and Jerusalem are funded largely by American money and American aid. I mean, if that's not a violation of already...
We understand that. The point is, it's never mattered. It's never mattered. There have never been any consequences. So where does that leave the Palestinian people? What will they be pushed to?
Absolutely. Now, I think the question is, will the Palestinian Authority, will the Palestinian leadership continue to just advance this tired and cliched-based narrative of a two-state solutions, of a peace process, negotiations, and so forth and so on, that the very creators of that status quo and that international system are now the ones who are pushing against it. Now, if Mahmoud Abbas carries out with that mindset, then Palestinians really have nothing to expect but further deterioration of their cause regionally and internationally. Or will they find a way to recreate a sense of unity amongst them and formulate a new strategy that does not put the United States and the White House as the core and principled leader of whatever political solution they have in mind, and take the issue back to the United Nations and have other UN members who have not violated international law look in the mirror and deal with their responsibility, legal and political and moral responsibility under international law.
Okay. I mean, we still have looming in the background the Trump administration's strategy and their so-called deal of the century plan for peace. Are you getting the feeling that that deal of the century actually just entailed trying to break entirely the spirit of the Palestinians and have them just succumb to more or less Israeli domination over the area and essentially give up?
That's exactly what it is, because if the so-called deal of the century had any merit whatsoever, it would be constantly in the news, and we are going to be seeing Palestinians and Israelis meeting and talking and taking positions. It has been dropped almost entirely from the news for months. This is indeed an American attempt at getting Israel exactly what Israel wants. Thinking Palestinians have no political power and they are in no position to dictate our policy. The only party that we are accountable to is Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu, and that's what we are going to do. We are going to enforce their position as much as we can. But it's also important to note that the U.S. has been, the U.S. political position in the Middle East in general has been changing. The U.S. doesn't have that kind of political sway anymore. They are basically giving Netanyahu exactly what he wants, but they are incapable of enforcing their will on the international community as they once had in past years.
Okay, Ramzy Baroud joining us live there from Rome. Thanks so much for that.